Hey family, it's your girl, Dr. Shonna. I hope I didn't keep you guys waiting too long this time around, but I am here, and we are going to talk about this smear campaign that is going on with our beloved brother, Ahmaud Arbery. And don't be fooled, because the smear campaign that's out there is not only orchestrated by the very people who have a history of violent acts against persons of African descent. But the smear campaign, I'm noticing, also exists among some of our own. So we're going to have to call it all out today. We're going to have a really good conversation about this. How is everyone doing? I just hope that you guys are all doing well. Let me see if I could turn off this television, because that glow is kind of like annoying. Give me a second. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. I don't know where the remote is. Oh, I think I found it. Yes, found the remote. So I'm back. Hello to all my moderators. Peace be upon all you guys. I'm glad you're here. Make sure we go ahead and scan the audience. Anybody who has an opinion and is a respectful opinion, they can stay. We don't all have to agree with each other. However, people who are disrespectful, as you know, on my platform, I don't entertain it. Just go ahead and block them and ban them and delete them. We just have to be a little bit more patient with some of them, because some of them are special. They don't know how to communicate, and they may not be disrespectful. I know some of us have trigger happy. The slightest sign of disrespect, we banning, blocking, and deleting. But we have to wait for a little bit, because sometimes people just don't know how to communicate certain things, but they mean us no harm. So let's just really pay attention to that, family. Make sure you share the video. Let's go into those housekeepings before we get started. Share the video. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. These are the things that are all totally free to you. It costs you nothing to share the video. It costs you nothing to subscribe to the channel. It costs you nothing to hit the thumbs up. It costs you nothing to just participate in this whole process. Another thing I want to do before we get started is give a fat shout out to everyone who has emailed me some content. I appreciate you guys. And for all the people who have been on it, like white on rice, they're going through different social media accounts and they're scanning all the nonsense that is out there, and we are uncovering racist people by the boatload. So I love that. That's how you get involved. Sometimes people are afraid of getting involved because they don't want their name and their face to be associated. But there's a lot of things that we can do behind the scenes. If you don't want to be on the scene like me and my brothers and sisters that do this every day, you can be behind the scene. You can go ahead and send us the information, and we're going to go ahead and sift through it. And the things that we have to talk about, the things that we're going to share. Don't be afraid. You can be anonymous to do that. Just don't sit back and do nothing. Because when you sit back and you do nothing in silence, you are complicit. You hear me? I don't care what color your skin is. If you sit back in silence and do nothing, you are complicit. You are part of the problem, and we need to get you up out of here as well. As simple as that. So I'm so glad that you guys are on it. I'm glad that you guys are following this case, signing all the petitions that are necessary. I'm glad you guys are out there spying on these white supremacist websites and getting the information out. The next step we need to do is not only getting the information out, but get their asses fired. Find out where they work at and share the information with their employers as well. So that'll be a great thing if we can do that. Good evening to all my beautiful people. I see some people saying, like, I saw somebody say good morning. Maybe they're like in a different part of the world, but good evening and good morning to everyone around there. Yes, Leslie, I'm glad you signed the petition. Let's start with the smear campaign. How about we start there, sisters and brothers? Because I'm not going to try to keep you guys long today whatsoever. Let's start with the smear campaign. So I received quite a few emails from people I'm presuming are folks of melanin, and they share all these videos about Ahmaud Arbery walking into the construction sites on different times at different occasions, whether it was during the day or at nighttime. And they share these videos saying, just thought you should know that this is some new news uncovering. What new news is it? It's not new news. It's like we share these videos in a way, and this is how I take it, right? But we share these videos in a way to make it seem like, well, I mean, I guess the truth is coming out. I guess he had it coming. I don't know what is the purpose when I get these kind of videos from our own people, and there is no exclamation of why they're sharing this video with me. They're just giving me this video with no explanation, and they just want me to go ahead and become upset and talk about it. And I'm not going to do that, because in every last one of the videos, he hasn't stole anything. And what's even more important for us to talk about that people who share these videos with me are not speaking about is that the reason why these tapes are known is because the owners of the owner of the property, or the owners of the property, are the ones that released the videos. And they wanted to show that Ahmaud Arbery did not steal anything from their property. So if they weren't filing reports, and if they weren't making a big thing out of it, why is the media doing it? Well, we know why the media is doing it, right? But am I seeing people of melanin feeding into this narrative and sharing the video as though they have a platform for debate? Like they're trying to throw a monkey wrench in the whole game. You see, we got to be very careful with how we sign up for this whole system that is designed against us. We sign up to be participants of this system. When you are out there sharing the video of Ahmaud Arbery walking onto the construction site, and you're not providing any context, the only thing you're doing is furthering the narrative. So let me help some people with that narrative, because I'm gonna help some of us so we can be a little bit more strategic when we do things like this, right? So if you're going to share the video, it's important for you to know that there could be 101 reasons for why Ahmaud Arbery was in that property. He didn't steal anything. He's not seen touching anything. He just walked around. So let me give you guys some insight into how I live my life, and maybe I'm not saying that Ahmaud Arbery lives his life this way, but I'm not saying that he does not. I'm saying that there are so many reasons out there, and we're jumping to conclusion when we share mainstream media's narrative about him being in the house. See, we have to understand the reason why they are releasing these videos is a subtle way of supporting the narrative that was given by the murderers. And we have to know why this is happening. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. But let me just give you a little insight into how I operate. I have 3 children. And my children are all far apart in age. I guess that's how I keep my young looks. But my daughter is turning 22. My oldest son, middle child, is 16, and the youngest one is 6. And each of these children, even though they are different ages, you know what I do with them? Sometimes we get in my car and we drive around to the uppity neighborhoods, and we look at different houses and properties, and I ask them about their imagination. I ask them about where would they like to see themselves. I sort of have an in vivo, in person, real live vision board that I create for my children. And there are times that I also will park the vehicle, get out the vehicle, and walk around. So when does that become a crime? There are times that I go on drives by myself to look at different areas, and I sit in my car and I watch how people interact. I watch how they engage. I look at these huge houses, okay? And I drive up and down slowly through these neighborhoods looking at these huge houses when I live right down the block and we ain't got no lawn. We don't have any backyard, but these houses have acres of land in an area that is highly dense with populations, of people, highly dense, but they have these big, huge houses with all this land. So I like to go and I like to walk. And sometimes not only do I like to drive in these areas and walk in these areas with my children and without my children, but I like to go there so I can have my conversations with my higher power in order for me to get my mind right, because it's really quiet in a lot of those communities that I go into. There's no noise like where I live at. There's always traffic. There's always people. There's always something going on. Sometimes I go there just so I can be. And no one bothers me. No one bothers me. Sometimes people turn around and they look because they see a little black face in their community. But is that a crime for me to do that? Is that a crime? So we see this young man walking around a construction site. And trust me, I have been on new development sites. And new development is going up in my area constantly all the time. And we all go out there. People go down there and they check out new developments all the time. All the time. And there have been times where I would say, oh my God, this is beautiful. Can I have a look around? And people will let me come in and look around. So why is it that we're sharing this narrative as though this young boy is doing something other than being curious? How do we know he's not fascinated with the house? How do we know that? How do we know he's not getting his mindset right and he's setting himself up on his goals on where he wanted to go in his life had he still had his life? How do we know that? But that's what we do. And for us to share these videos with no context, with no narrative attached to it, no narrative pushing back against mainstream media is a dangerous game that we're playing. We don't realize that we set ourselves up. We set ourselves up. And in this day and age, people, I'm serious, family, in this day and age, we don't have time for flip-flopping. It's either you down with us or you not. So to everyone who has shared these videos with me with no context and saying heads up, I just thought you would know, there is no heads up because you haven't showed me anything. You haven't showed me watching him commit any type of crime. So what are we doing here? So that's how the whole smear campaign starts. And that's how we also become complicit to the smear campaign, because when something contrary to what we want to believe, we get all nervous and we start sharing it, supporting a narrative, not realizing that the reason why this stuff is being released is because it's a strategy. And how often do I have to say we have to play chess and not checkers? Because they're playing chess all the time. It is a strategy. And we have to get ourselves to a place, critical thinkers. Last time I sworn, I thought we was coined as the critical thinkers. We have to get ourselves to a place when we're able to pull back and analyze what is happening here, because they're almost never for us. And we need to stop living in a world of illusions and watch what we do, watch what we share, watch the things that we say, because if it's going to hurt us, we need not to be involved in it. That's how I look at it. Somebody says some people were saying that he was going in there to smoke weed. Where is the evidence of that? Where is the evidence that he was going in there to smoke weed? And if he was going in there to smoke weed, is that enough to take his life? And that's what I mean when I say we have to be careful of the narrative that we helped to put out there in mainstream media. Let me tell y'all something. How many of y'all live around white people? And I'm saying this for a particular reason. How many of you guys live around white people? I know I do. I live around Asians, which they behave totally different than whites and blacks. And I live around white people. And I watch how these white boys are. I mean, the stuff that these kids do, I would have my children's head if they decided to do that. Okay? And I don't see anybody killing them for the things that they do. But the minute we do something, we're criminals. It is a tactic used against us to smear our names. Our parents had no control over us. We were up to no good, and we deserved everything that was coming to us. I've seen white boys and girls do nasty sexual things at young ages. All right. Remember, y'all, I'm a doctor of social work. I've seen it all. I've seen it all. They smoke weed. They do other type of illicit drugs. Okay. They'll be 15, 16 years old, drinking publicly in the park. I've seen them I've seen them steal bikes off of people's properties. Everything. I caught one trying to get into my car one day, but nobody put a bullet in them. But the minute we see something among our own, I don't know. He said that he got arrested when he was 16. He was walking around that house. Oh, yeah, he was going to smoke weed. Like, we always have something. And I'm not saying for us here in this community, but I'm saying what I've been seeing on social media by some of us is just sickening to my stomach. It disgusts me that we feed into this narrative. And I can't stress it enough. He didn't steal anything. And not only did he not steal anything, the owners of the property were aware that he was on there. And to the best of my knowledge, I haven't heard anything that said that the owners filed reports, or that the owners was fearful, or the owners was thinking that he was vandalizing their property or doing something. None. So does that justify him being murdered? I don't think so. I don't understand why he just can't be in a Myra. I don't understand why he just can't be scoping it out in awe. I mean, I don't understand that. Maybe he's interested in doing construction from houses. Maybe he's studying to be an electrician and he's looking at it to see how it goes. I don't know. Maybe he's in an apprentice program and he's seeing what he's learning come alive before his eyes. I don't know. But we need to stop jumping to these conclusions, and we need to learn how to be on code at all times. And being on code in this situation means that we don't spread mainstream media or no media's narrative that goes against what we're trying to do here. Right? Yes, Leslie, I agree with you. Leslie says our people have been so exhausting. I mean, I don't understand what it's going to take for our community to get on code. You see, there was one time in my town, another transparency. It was another time in my town where this Asian guy, the girlfriend breaks up with him. He gets mad. She gets out of his car to walk home. He runs her over. I don't know how many times. He just kept going back and forth over her so many times that her limbs detached from her body. It was a shocker in my town because petty crimes happen, but I'm talking about big crimes and murders is not something that we see here. So for that to happen like at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he dismembered her body with his car. He dumped the car a mile or two away, gets on. And the reason why we know this because there's cameras all through my town. So they're going to watch the cameras. They're going to pick you up on every step. And they pick them up every step. He gets to the bridge. He gets on the bridge, the George Washington Bridge, goes over to Queens, New York. He gets a ticket for a plane, and they got him just before he got on the plane to go back to his country, where his father is at a high status. I mean, like emperor status. He's at a high status, and his father just that quickly wired him money to get him out of the U.S. back to the town. I think it was in Korea, if I'm not mistaken. That's where he was from. Dismembered her body. Let me tell you how their community is on code. Even though it was a killing of one of their own by one of their own, after that happened, I swear to you, News 7 was here, Fox News was here, everybody, ABC, NBC, and Fox were all here. on this incident. There were cameras everywhere. I came home from work and I was like, what the hell is going on in this community? And somebody was like, you didn't hear? Somebody got murdered over there. Her body pieces are over. They still have her body chalked and it's covered in different pieces of her body. And they try to pull him out the car and he fought them. He took off and the cops followed him and they think he knows where he's at. So I'm like, really? So I'm waiting every day in a newspaper to hear about this story. Do you think I heard about it? I didn't get any more information on this story. And after it aired that one night on mass media, it never aired again. Why? Because this community, when it comes to the Korean population, when it comes to the Chinese population or the Asian as a collective, their population, they are on the hush hush, very muted. I didn't hear anything else about this case. It's as though it never happened. There are no flowers that are out on this anniversary. There's no candles. There was no marching. There was no candlelight vigil. There was nothing going on. Nobody came out to say anything about this woman's body and her death. It went away. It went away. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad, but what I am saying is we have to learn how to safeguard our community. We have to learn what to put out there and what to retract, what to prevent from getting out there. We have to learn that. Because if we don't learn that, we become complicit with the narrative. And it works against us. And let me tell you why it's going to work against us. Because you got to always remember our history when it comes to their actions. Like we're all calling this a modern day lynching, right? And I agree with it. Absolutely, it's a modern day lynching. But we got to understand that these people have always, and I'm talking about historically, they have always created their narrative to justify their actions. Always. You can see documented pictures of these people showing up with their children, their husbands, their wives, their mothers, their fathers, their siblings, with some chicken and some bread and picnic baskets just to watch a lynching, to watch a body burn in a tree. They've come out and they have celebrated this. So why would we assume that anything different is going on here? So anything that they put out, we ought not to be sharing it in such a way that it supports their narrative. Because they have been known for concocting stories so that they can get off. And why does that matter? It matters because the jury selection has to happen, right? And I want you guys to always remember that. The jury selection has to happen, family. It has to happen. And you got to understand that you can be a potential juror. I can't because I don't live in Georgia, but if I lived in Georgia, I can be a potential juror. And you have to understand that everything that goes on that screen right now is being imprinted in the mind of the citizens that live in that community. Black and white alike. And that community has jurors that are on social media. They have jurors that is in there and they're reading what is being said in the newspaper. They're watching the news channels. They're listening to what we're saying online. There are people who are being tainted. There is no such thing as an untainted juror. So we have to be very strategic on what we are doing. And we have to be aware of how we are helping the narrative and building the case against Ahmaud Arbery. So let me pause right there. Thank you, Robert, for that donation. Yes, I'm going to try to keep teaching the truth, and I'm never going to stop as long as I got breath in my body. So I appreciate that. I just want y'all to know what we're doing here. So this smear campaign is out there, and they're all sticking together. They all have their little strategy and their plan, and we need to stop falling for it. We need to stop falling for it. If we see something that they're saying that is negative and we don't know enough to counter it, don't share it. It's as simple as that. don't share it. But at the same time, I think we should start learning the process of becoming critical thinkers and put it in the energy that we need so that we can fight against smear campaigns. Because to remain silent is to be complicit. And yes, I'm talking to the melanin community, but I'm also talking to the so-called allies. The fact that they're all silent, too many of them are silent for my liking. Not that I depend on them to do a damn thing, but too many of them are silent for my liking. So they're complicit. And I want you guys, let me go on this for real quick, and then I'm going to get on to William Bryan, or William Roddy Bryan. I want you to understand this. Some of us in this community, in the melanin community, we are so uncomfortable talking about race as well, because we don't want to feel bad about some of our white family members, that married into our families. We don't want to feel bad about our mixed children and their fathers or mothers. We don't want to feel bad about our so-called friends, our coworkers that we like to go out with for happy hours and whatever the case is, or our little so-called friends that we invite over to family events, we invite over to funerals and weddings. We don't want to feel bad about feeling some kind of way about our so-called friends, acquaintances, associates. We don't want to feel bad about it, right? But let me tell you something. In moments like this, it is so important for us to sit back and just shut the hell up to watch to see what they're saying and what they're doing. If you share this video, or you share an article about Ahmaud Arbery and they don't like it, they don't heart it, they don't share it, they don't talk about it, they don't do anything on your post, that's got to tell you something about the people you calling your friends, your associates, and your acquaintances. I'm being honest. See, as you can all see, I'm a college educated person, right? And we know that the higher you go up in higher education, the less of us is in existence. So the people that are in your cohort that you have to do projects with, they don't look like you, right? And so you guys form little lunch dates, you have little outings, all these little things go on. But I'm very cautious and careful, because I don't want anyone to thinking that we are friends. We're colleagues, we're co-workers, we're professionals, we're constituents, but we're not friends. Because when things like this happens, I look at all of their pages and they are all silent, even the ones that are in school. And I'm in social work. Do you know what it means to be a social worker? See, people just think we do the welfare office or child protection services. They're not social workers. They're social workers, or they're doing social work under the auspices of a government agency, but it doesn't make them a social worker. And there's no shade to people who work in child protection services and you calling yourself a social worker. If you read your board regs, you're not a social worker, but you're doing social work. Like, nonetheless, don't get offended. But what I'm saying is, if you are a social worker, not only do you have your master's as a social worker, but you're licensed to practice. You took an oath, you certified an oath to do social work. That means that you have certified an oath to be a social advocate for justice. And so we know that it's more of them in social work than it is us. I see the numbers all the time. So you would think, if we're a social justice, you would think that when our community, the melanin community, who are considered in their books to be marginalized community, or communities of so-called color, or minority communities, whatever the case is, fragile communities, whatever they want to call us, all these magic fancy words that they want to call us, and we're considered to be that, and we are the population that you so-called work for or work with, how come when something tragic happens in our community, I don't see them sharing it, I don't see them protesting about it, I don't see them writing about it, I don't see them complaining about it, I don't see them holding rallies about it? Now, I'm not saying there aren't speckles of people who's doing it, but I'm saying in my profession alone, it's a whole entire industry, and I hear crickets. But let it be something that's LGBTQ plus, and you don't say anything, they be looking at you side eyes like you homophobic or you anti-LGBTQ plus. That's how they start to look at you. Let something happen in a Jewish community and you don't say nothing about it, then you're anti-Semitic. I mean, I can go on and on. Do I need to go on and on? Do I need to go on and on about this? But when it comes to our community, they are crickets. That's all you hear. You hear nothing, silence. And so I question some of us that are uncomfortable talking about race are hearing about race because they so-called got white friends and so-called got white this and white that and white. They always want to protect white. But I question and I challenge you guys to go to your white social media pages and see what they're talking about. Because they damn sure not talking about your pain. And don't give me the 1% of the people who will say something, because that you'll be lucky if you even find that. But the 1% of the people don't count, because that 1% might be married to someone Black. Might be. Because there's a lot of them that are married to people who is Black that don't say anything. And I know that because they're all connected on my pages. I know that. So we got to be very careful about that, right? We have to be very careful about being silent for ourselves because we're complicit in it. And we have to also pay attention to who becomes silent when our community needs voices. Who becomes silent, who in our so-called friend circles become silent because they're complicit too. You can't tell me you're against racism and you want social justice and you want equity and equality, but you're silent when our community is shaken with terroristic threats and terroristic acts. Don't become silent and then call me your friend. Right? So we have to be mindful of that. We have to be mindful of that. And it's not an attack against anybody. I'm just pointing out the obvious. Let me tell you how obvious this is. I had a man come up to me. We were online at a social worker event. He's a social worker. And he was white. He was an older guy. He was at the convention with his wife. And so he just found the need to have a long conversation with me. Why? I don't know. So I listened to him. He's engaging. And so he said that Trump, you know how they always, the liberals always go after Trump. You know, I can care less about Trump. So he doesn't bother me whatsoever. We can have him for 4 more years. I ain't crying. But nonetheless, you know how I am. I hold my vote. If you're not giving me anything I want to hear, you ain't got no vote. But nonetheless, as I was saying, he was having a long conversation about Trump. And then he comes out and says, he's bringing out racism. He's bringing out racism among a lot of people. He says that he saw on one of the posts, one of his friends had shared something about an incident that happened. And he had all this racial undertones and sensitive statements and comments. And he said, this is a guy that he and his wife goes out to lunch, breakfast, brunch with. This is a guy who his children has been in his home and his children has been in his home, and they, you know, they do different things like that. And he said, I was disgusted when I saw what he was posting. And so I said to this guy, I said, well, what did you say to him? Now, you know, I know he ain't say nothing. I was just being nosy. I was like, really? What did you say to him? He was like, you know, I really thought about it and I wanted to say something to him, but, you know, I just didn't. I just figured that I would just distance myself from him. I would just, because that really hurt me. The things that he was saying, it was a shocker. And I didn't believe that stuff was coming out of his mouth, especially since our children are friends of each other. So I just decided to distance myself from him. And he chose not to say anything. He's complicit. He's complicit. You speak about social justice and you having this conversation with me about what? About what? And you did nothing. You don't get kudos from me. You don't get no applause. You don't get no claps. You don't get no handshakes. You don't get no hugs. You just like everybody else. I'm watching you with third eye. And I'm not mad. I don't get mad. Thank you for the donation, Rogish, the build monger. I appreciate that. He says the same with Black veterans. They fought in the U.S. Neoliberalism, imperialism campaigns for purpose of assisting and oppressed people, but somehow were unable to see a militant need for our people. Absolutely. That's what it is. But, you know, I say that to say, if you're silent, you're complicit. If you chose not to say nothing, you're complicit. You're complicit in this whole system. Let's get on to William Roddy Bryan before I get on Nolly, because I told you I ain't staying too long. So I'm gonna get on this and I'm out. Now, y'all see what's happening with Mr. William Bryan. Just in case y'all don't know who that is, William Bryan is the guy that was recording Ahmaud Arbery's killing. He was the guy who was caught in it. And now that he's under investigation, they're trying to come for him. You know, he needs to go under the jail. Now that he's under investigation, he's out there on camera with his attorney looking like he's a little innocent puppy who's lost in the rain that's all wet, and we're falling for the nonsense. Not us, I'm saying America is falling for the nonsense, but that's what they always do. And I have to say to us, family, don't fall for the hype, because this is all part of a strategy. They have to have him out there looking all innocent, because this is all about jury selection. This is all about jury selection. He's out there and he's saving face. He's saving face. So he talks about losing his job. His attorney talks about he only has a high school education. He's a mechanic. He's getting threats. I don't know if they use the word death threats, but they said threats, and he's scared for his life. And he's presenting like he's this old, innocent guy who's all fragile. And oh my God, they're threatening to kill him. Well, good for you. Good for you. And it doesn't work on our community. I'll tell you the people that's going to work for. When they say they're going to choose a jury of your peers, his peers, Ahmaud Arbery peers, are not going to look anything like us, because 9 out of 10 times it never does. All right. So he's speaking for his peers, a jury of his peers, not Ahmaud Arbery's peers. It's going to be his peers. So he's presenting himself as though he's innocent. He's under attack, and he wasn't doing it for harm. He wasn't being malicious. And he also went as far to saying that he doesn't know the McMichaels. But as I hear it, evidence says that they're neighbors, but he doesn't know them. And now he isn't feeling safe because he's getting threats. Well, welcome to every day of our life. And welcome to Ahmaud Arbery's last few hours of his life. Welcome to that. Now, you don't feel safe? Come on now. Stop playing with me. It is us that don't feel safe. It is us that don't feel safe. But you know what? We have to understand. Thank you for that, Scorpio girl. I appreciate that. We have to understand that he's not really talking to us. He's talking to the people that he needs for them to hear his plea and his cry, so that he can get sympathy when he is brought in front of a jury. So we got to make sure that we dig up dirt on this guy. We have to make sure that we put holes all in his story on the media, because just like they look to put holes all in our stories, we need to be doing the same thing. Because we have to understand when cat calls go out. And that's the problem we have with so many people. We don't understand when cat calls are going out. We wait until after the fact. And then when there's no conviction and he gets off, we become upset, we become angry, and we're in outcry. We have to march, we have to complain. No, these cat calls go out way before time. And the problem is, too many of us are asleep because we're not paying attention. We're not paying attention. In community, I absolutely feel that we have to do a better job. We have to do a better job stalking these people's pages like they do to ours. We have to do a better job investigating them and uncovering information, especially if you live near the area in Georgia. You guys can get information faster than we can. We have to do a better job as going undercover and going into these white groups online, right? And being a part of the discussion. We have to do a better job because they are on it. There's a strategy. There's a strategy. This man didn't answer any questions. And of course not. He's not going to answer anything to incriminate himself. It is a strategy. The image that he is putting forth for his potential jurors, he is doing it on purpose. And it's a mind tool. Is a way to get into the minds of the American people, especially the people who are going to judge him. And so when they have him sitting there with his wife, looking all innocent, that's a mind tool strategy. Pay no attention to it. Have him there slumped over, looking like he's not the strong macho guy that he was when he was recording that video. That's a mind tool. Don't pay attention to it. All right. Have him there denying that he has a relationship to the McMichaels. That's a mind tool. All of that stuff was a strategy. His attorney told him exactly what to say. And even when they asked him, what does he have to say about, what does he have to say to Ahmaud Arbery's family? The only thing he said that he was sorry for their loss. But that's all you can say? And you're a parent? Is that all you can say? Is if somebody killed your child, is the only thing you want to hear them say is sorry for your loss? That's all he can bring himself to say? See, there's one thing. There's a lesson. Like I told y'all before, I like to read different books for lessons and proverbs and stuff so I can understand certain things about how it works in this world. And there's a saying that says, what's in a man's heart will come out of their mouth. So we got to be mindful that we pay attention to the words that's coming out of people's mouths. That's what we have to be mindful, because that will express everything that is in their hearts. And we cannot lose focus on that. We have to understand that all of this stuff is a strategy, and we got to stop falling for it. Okay. And the last thing I want to say is that make no mistake that William Roddy Bryan is an accomplice to murder. Make no mistake. And I said it. I don't care. And you know how I know he is? Because when you listen to that video that he recorded when Ahmaud Arbery was murdered. If any of you guys witness a murder, how might you react? How might you react? And see, that's the kind of stuff that we need to pay attention to. Because he wasn't shocked at all. You see this man shot down in the street and you're not shocked at all. You don't hear no gasping on the video. You don't hear the car coming to a complete automatic fast stop. You don't hear him say anything. You don't hear him get out the car. You don't hear none of that stuff. He's as quiet as day. It just reminds me of the historical lynchings when all the little white families, boys and girls, mothers and fathers would come out and watch a black man, a black woman be lynched and their bodies be burnt. And ain't nobody saying nothing, because you know something, for some reason, they're accustomed to this. This is like the norm. There's no gasping. There's no nothing. It's more like, well, okay, glad that happened to you. Who's next? I mean, what kind of human being has that kind of reaction to a death? He's an accomplice. He wasn't outraged. He's not speaking out against what he saw by the McMichaels. He ain't saying none of that stuff, and he's not going to, because he's an accomplice. He's an accomplice. He didn't intervene. He didn't say, okay, what are you guys doing? He didn't try to get Arbery in his car away from anything. He didn't do any of that. He didn't start beeping his horn. He didn't do any of that. He is an accomplice. So we have to be mindful of what's going out there. This is all part of the smear campaign, and it's a strategy for them to taint the mind of potential jurors. And that's why I get so upset with the melanin community when we don't sit on jury, when we don't want to go to jury duty. We find every reason and every excuse to get out of it. I get so upset with us, family, because we cannot get the justice if we're not on those seats. If we're not showing up, the justice is not going to happen. We keep leaving it to our oppressors, our murderers, our discriminators. We keep leaving it to all of them to decide whether justice is served on our behalf. And that is problematic. It is problematic. So I say this to my Georgia folks who are in the area. If you get a call, if you get a card, if they let you know you've been selected for jury duty, they're not going to tell you for what case. They're just going to tell you got selected. You need to show up. You need to show up, and you need to make yourself available to sit on this jury selection, regardless of whether it's Ahmaud Arbery's or is another case. You need to be involved. You need to show up and stop trying to get out of it, because you don't know when jury selection is going to happen for this case, but you need to be available. That's all I have to say, because what they are doing, they're speaking right now. They're speaking right now to their potential jurors, and this is how they're doing. It's all in silence. It's little cat codes. It's all coded, and the only people that seem to be missing it is most of us. Not all of us, but most of us. We seem to be missing it because we're not paying attention. We're so in our bag. We're all in our feelings that we're not paying attention to what is being said and how they're going about doing it. Thank you so much for that donation, Reginald. I appreciate that. We need to be careful with that. So I end by saying that just as they're starting their little smear campaign, we need to be on it with ours. There's no more playing innocent. There's no more turning the other cheek. There's no more being what they call it, non-violent. I mean, I'm not telling you guys to go out there and do anything violent, because you know they're arresting social media people, they're arresting activists for making claims, terroristic claims, are sending people out there to do things. So I'm definitely not saying that. But I am saying that we need to get on our game, our A game, because these people are on their A game and they don't go to sleep. Right? They don't go to sleep. They be on it. So we need to be on it like white on rice. That's all I have for y'all. That's right, Ash said no more hugs. No more hugs. Yes. Thank you, Water Sniper. I appreciate that. I'm trying to give people no more forgiveness. We're not hugging nobody. We ain't forgiving nobody. We're not making excuses. We're not sharing mainstream media's narrative. We're not doing any of that. We are becoming spies. We're going to be the spook that sat by the door. That's who we're going to be. We're going to be undercover. Our names, we're going to change our names. We're going to be Kimberly Weisberger. We're going to be John, Paul, Billy, whatever name you have to have. And we're going to go into these groups and we're going to share what they're talking about. As simple as that. As simple as that. We've been docile and quiet for too long. We've been complicit in our own demise for too long, and we got to stop doing it. So I say thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Go ahead and share the video and give me a thumbs up. I really do appreciate every last one of my sisters and brothers out there. Thank you so much for your emails that y'all have been giving me, the videos, the documentaries. I've gotten it from all of you guys. Some of the stuff I haven't watched yet. Other stuff I have watched. Some of the stuff I already shared. I also shared some stuff on my Facebook page. I love to go out there. Just like somebody sent me something about, what's that baby? The Gerber baby. Magnolia is her name, the black little girl that's been selected for Gerber 2020. And all the racist comments that they were able to expose on white people, just mad that this black little baby is the Gerber baby for 2020. Just disrespectful stuff. So, you know, people's names out there, and I'll go ahead. Thank you so much for that donation, Shaman or Shaman. I appreciate that. I've shared it out there so that we can know who this woman is that was making these racist comments. And to my understanding, she got doxxed. Her site is shut down. Her husband shut down his site too. They started to block people. They got a little bit scared. And that's how we ought to be moving all the time. All the time. So peace and blessings to you guys. Good night. Subscribe to the channel and share the video.